right, live from the inner sanctum of conservative thought and kicking off another brand new hour, fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom. It's the Steve Gruber Show. It often results in extended periods of American pride, optimism, and enthusiasm about the future, so be careful. You could leave here feeling pretty good today. We're kicking off the live broadcast and Real America's Voice and MTN, reaching a growing global audience. This is the Steve Gruber Show, a no panic zone. Thank you for being here. Three big things to start the hour. Number one, a small Kentucky church targeted by a gunman on Sunday. After shooting a Kentucky state trooper, he continued his shooting, and then he was killed. We'll have details. Number two, some experts are suggesting that AOC calling President Trump a rapist online could swiftly lead to a lawsuit and could cost her millions. We'll talk about that. And number three, the biggest story of all that's not going anywhere anytime soon, the Trump administration's denial of the existence now of the Epstein files, after all we've been told about them before now. How do we make sense of all this? How do we explain this? Well, I've got a couple of theories. Some I like more than others. So let's get to it. Let's figure it out. Jeffrey Epstein, arrested in 2019, as you know, and of course died under very suspect circumstances later that year while being held in jail. Then his right-hand woman, Ghislaine Maxwell, charged in 2022 for conspiring to sexually abuse minors and was convicted. She's now serving a 20-year prison sentence as a result. This was a pattern of criminal behavior. A conspiracy that involved powerful people who would do anything to cover up their tracks, of course, maybe even see to it that that star witness, Epstein himself, was silenced for good. I mean, do you believe that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself? Do you? I don't. So the question has always been, who are these people? We know that it involves, at the very least, people like those in the royal family. Prince Andrew has dropped out of the limelight after paying out one of Epstein's victims who said she was forced to have sex with him while she was underage. Now, we thought that the Trump administration would be the one to finally provide these answers, and for good reason, because these were the promises being made. Like Attorney General Pam Bondi making these media appearances several times, promising that some truly sickening information will be coming out at any moment. Listen.
Yeah, the FBI, they're reviewing, there are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn. And there are hundreds of victims. And no one victim will ever get released. It's just the volume, and that's what they're going through right now. The FBI is diligently going through that. I haven't seen that statement, but I'll call him later and find out.
But what did we actually get? Same old stuff. Same old flight logs. Waved around in big binders given to conservative influencers. You remember that. Didn't really satisfy any of our questions. We've made that known. We were told, be patient. We were told it was just phase one. We were expecting a phase two, but now the DOJ and FBI have released a memo saying there was no actual client list. Excuse me? And Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. Wait a second. That's not what we heard before. And again, no one's buying it. We're Americans. We don't accept obvious bull from political leaders, and we don't move on because we're told to move on by political leaders. There's been a lot of conflicting information, and I doubt that the answer is that there's just nothing to it. Alan Dershowitz, for example, has had his run-ins with the Epstein associates. He says there's some obvious suppression going on. Here's what he said. Listen.
This is not an opinion. This is a fact. I have seen, remember, I was accused falsely on the Epstein, and ultimately I was completely cleared. The woman admitted that she may have mistook me for somebody else and withdrew all of her lawsuits. And so from day one, from the day I was accused, I said I want every document out because I knew every document would prove I was innocent. So let me tell you, I know for a fact documents are being suppressed. And they're being suppressed to protect individuals. I know the names of the individuals. I know why they're being suppressed. I know who's suppressing them. But I'm bound by confidentiality from a judge and cases, and I can't disclose what I know. But I hand to God, I know the names of people.
But he can't say because of attorney-client privilege? I don't buy that either, Alan. They're not all your clients. They're not all privileged. You have names. Drop them. This is where the theories go haywire. If there are truly files, why are they being suppressed? To protect people? If so, who? Who's Alan Dershowitz talking about there in that comment? There's a theory out there that the release of the list could cause global mayhem, pandemonium. President Trump is exercising his authority as commander-in-chief to prevent the chaos that could turn our country back into an open borders, Democrat-run hellhole if the information gets out. Because there are powerful people on the list, world leaders, influential people in business. It's a possibility. But then why the whole dog and pony show at the start of the administration with the binders and the media appearances? Why all the comments? Some of the MAGA people have been ready to blame the whole thing on Pam Bondi. Maybe she spoke too soon and with too much confidence about things she didn't know enough about. Podcaster Tim Pool thought that maybe Bondi was being prepared as the sacrificial lamb, a scapegoat. Listen to this.
The conspiracy theory is that they are going to put the blame on Pam Bondi for the botched release, force her to be fired, and then the more extreme version is the Epstein files have been damaged, destroyed, or lost because of Bondi. Wrap it up in a nice little ball, throw it in the trash, and then say, "Sorry, guys, we can't do anything about it. It was Bondi's fault."
What would be their motivation for that?
Well, if Trump, whatever's going on, when they come out and say Epstein killed himself, and they say there's nothing to see here, nobody believes it. If your intention is to not release this stuff, how do you do it? Especially when Trump said in his campaign he's going to do it. Everyone is demanding it. The story will not go away. It was the top trending story all week, no matter what they tried. They came out and announced they were investigating Brennan and Comey, and that went beep and then gone, and Epstein came back. So PR strategy-wise, what would you do? Guys, we're going to need a patsy to blame. So who can we throw out the window? And then what you if you want to get real extreme with it, they could come out and say, guys, we had the files. Bondi destroyed them. We don't know.
That doesn't make a lot of sense to me either. Because, you see, the problem with that is that President Trump is going to bat for Pam Bondi in a big way. Says she's doing a great job, and he's clearly defending her right to the mat, right? He's defending her all the way through. So how do you explain any of that? Fact is, you can't. President Trump came out on Truth Social and defended her. Said she's absolutely doing a terrific job, right? Says she's doing a terrific job as Pam Bondi. So, is she the fall guy? I don't think so. I think there's more to it here. I think there's a lot more to dig into, a lot more to figure out and find out. What are your thoughts? And I want you to weigh in on this, because this is the #1 trending story. It's gone nowhere. And they're right. They brought out Brennan, they brought out Clapper, and they brought out Comey, and they're investigating those guys all at the insistence of Barack Obama and the Russiagate and the Steele dossier. Yet this story remains top of mind for many MAGA folks. And if you go online, some MAGA folks say that they're not buying what's being sold anymore. I don't know how many, but maybe some. That's why I want you to weigh in. Go to my email, stevegruber.com. Drop me a note at stevegruber.com. Go there, find, click, send me a message. Follow me while you're at it, by the way, on X and Facebook. The theory that I think is most plausible, I'll share after the break. I do think there's a plausible theory here. And that is the deep state going to work against Donald Trump, taking out what they don't want and then salting in false information just like they did with Russia. That's what I think has happened here. We'll talk about it after the break here on The Steve Gruber Show. back at it now. What are your theories? What do you think has happened here? Now, why don't you go to SteveGruber.com, you send me an email, and I'll read it right here on the program this week if I give credibility to your argument. All right, that's fair, right? I'd like to hear from you. As you know, that's why we do Free for All Fridays here every week. All right, so President Trump claims that the radical left is responsible for the Epstein files, and indeed they were. And he says if there were anything harmful to the MAGA movement or to him personally, they would have released those files during the Biden administration. The auto-pen president would have made sure it was out there. And I think he's right about that. In fact, this is where I am zeroing in. Here's what Bill O'Reilly says about the whole thing. Listen to this first.
I talked to President Trump man to man, eye to eye, on St. Patrick's Day about this and the Kennedy files and the King files. It was all one conversation. And he said, and I agree, there are a lot of names associated with Epstein that had nothing to do with Epstein's conduct. They maybe had lunch with him or maybe had some correspondence for one thing or another. If that name gets out, those people are destroyed because there's not going to be any context. Media doesn't care about context. So you can't do that. You can't destroy human beings by putting out the files, whatever they may be. But you certainly can have Attorney General Bondi say, this is what we know. And, you know, we're going to protect the innocent, and he's a heinous individual. In that press conference, sitting next to Pam Bondi, should be Merrick Garland, the Attorney General under Joe Biden, who had this material for 4 years. 4 years, Biden had it. Yeah, you don't hear that from the left, do you?
Yeah, there you go. That's exactly right. And I think the truth might be in there, right in there, somewhere between Trump's Truth Social Post and O'Reilly's point. Joe Biden's corrupt goons had these files for 4 years, 4 long years, with people like Christopher Wray and Merrick Garland in control, and many others that would and will do anything to destroy President Trump at all costs. You know that. What if there is no recognizable true client list anymore? What if all the evidence has been so mangled, so twisted, that it's unusable? That it would just cause more harm than good, because the elites who manufactured Operation Crossfire Hurricane, for example, had their fingers deep into it, all the way up to their elbow. What if they took out what they didn't want and then salted in as much damaging information as they could, whether it was true or false or made up altogether, like the whole Russia hoax of 2016 and beyond? And maybe it just took a couple months of sifting through the files to realize, wait a second, this has all been corrupted. This is all garbage, and corrupted by the dishonest individuals who had their hands on the files for the last 4 years. Now, we know that the intelligence community has been corrupted over the last decade, maybe longer. We just can't know to what extent they've corrupted what information. But again, we do know they will do anything to destroy President Trump and the MAGA movement. In fact, fabricating information to harm the MAGA movement is key to their playbook. And it wouldn't surprise me, and probably not you either, one bit, not one bit, to find out they worked overtime to erase all that makes sense and leave it for Trump to find when he gets into office. Another landmine for Trump to run into. Trump, Bondi, Patel, Bongino, maybe they've all been screwed. Maybe they've all stepped in it, and that could be why Trump feels so strongly about defending all of them right now. And here's what further convinces me. The Democrats are demanding transparency. Right now, all of a sudden the Democrats are out there, we must release the Epstein files now, something they have never done, never demanded. When Joe Biden or Christopher Wray or Merrick Garland had access to those files all those years, I didn't hear Democrats out there pounding their fists then and saying, hey, release the Epstein files. In fact, I never heard a single Democrat demand the file release, not one that I recall, not until the last few days. And suddenly, they're everywhere demanding transparency of the Epstein files. What does that tell you? I think this indicates that they cooked the pedophile books and just waited patiently for it to be the bomb that goes off and destroys MAGA. That's the theory I'm zeroing in on. As I continue to learn more and think about this debacle, I will continue to weigh the evidence, look for the facts, scattered as they may be. We're not sheep. We don't just take the word of politicians as gospel. We think critically and we demand accountability. It's what makes the MAGA movement different. We can't lose our focus just because we're outraged. Maybe as time goes by, we'll see the bigger picture, and I hope we do. My friend John Solomon always has the inside scoop in D.C. Here's what he says to expect and look for. Listen.
And I think next week, over the next 10 days, the base who's been wondering, where's all that accountability? They're going to get some big surprises over the next week concerning where the conspiracy began a few weeks before Crossfire Hurricane was open and when it ended, all the way in 2024, when they were still trying to pursue Donald Trump to keep him from winning the presidency. There's a big case that's been built by the Justice Department and the FBI. It's been masked by a lot of this infighting and drama and soap opera stuff, but the truth of the matter is MAGA base Americans are going to be happy when they see where this is all heading in the next few weeks. Kash Patel's going nowhere. I hope Dan Bongino isn't going anywhere, but I do think he's going to take some time over the weekend to think that through.
All right, we'll see where that ends up.
So hold it. We got three huge leads there.
We'll leave that right there. This could be huge. It could be deeper than Epstein, much deeper. We'll have to wait and see. You're not alone in your disappointment. I think it's important to call bull when I see it, but I hope you see the clear, bigger picture in the next week or so, like John Solomon says we will. I hope that's exactly right. All right. Are you frustrated by Washington? Do you wonder why Congress is such a mess? I do too. You wonder how we got here? Well, if you'd like to understand and have a lot of fun doing it, I'm telling you, this is what we did over the weekend again. Hillsdale College puts out a whole host of free courses, and they're fabulously done. 40 plus online courses, including Congress, how it worked, why it doesn't. This one's taught by Hillsdale's own Dr. Kevin Porteous. The course reveals the original purpose of Congress, how the founders designed it to work, and why today's dysfunction is no accident. They wanted something that would move slow. You'll explore key moments in American history, the role of partisanship, how changes in rules, incentives, and culture have shaped our legislature and reshaped it, sometimes for better, sometimes for worse. And the best part, like I said, it's absolutely free. No tuition, no strings attached, and so well done. This, my friends, is better than Netflix. Join me. Join me and Ivy. Join thousands of Americans who've taken the course, become informed, empowered citizens. Go to gruberforhillsdale.com. It's free, my friends. Sign up. Do this for me. Check it out. And send me an email. Tell me how you like it. Again, that's at stevegruber.com. Send me an email. gruberforhillsdale.com. gruberforhillsdale.com. I'll be right back. All right, well, I told you about this at the top of the show. AOC calling Donald Trump a rapist on social media. Well, that could be potentially problematic. Could be a very expensive thing to have done, as critics are referencing the $15 million settlement with ABC. All right, so wow, who would have thought that electing a rapist would have complicated the release of the Epstein files, said AOC on X Friday. Apparently referencing the 2023 civil trial leveled against Trump by E. Jean Carroll that nobody actually believes. Good Lord. A jury found Trump liable of sexual assault, but not of rape, which critics of Ocasio-Cortez repeatedly cited in their condemnation of the word rapist. The president should sue AOC into bankruptcy. I realize she's trying to raise her profile, but this is way, way too far, said legal analyst Phil Holloway. Even under the ridiculously lenient standards of New York Times v. Sullivan, you've managed to incur defamation liability. Wow, said Republican Utah Senator Mike Lee. You've able to incur defamation. It's a defamation lawsuit. Why didn't you guys release the Epstein files over the last 4 years? Maybe you were too busy covering for Joe Biden, or could it have been something to do with another former Democrat president? Said Mark Wayne Mullen. Anyhow, I can tell you this, she's really hit. She's hit the nerve center, that's for sure. Could your health issues be caused by an invisible enemy? Fatigue, bloating, brain fog? What if parasites are the problem? I was digging into parasite cleanses when I came across a video from a trusted doctor who mentioned that. Ivermectin and mebendazole, two powerful anti-pathogens, but what's even more fascinating, these medications are frequently used in oncology. That's right, to treat cancer. They have anti-pathogenic properties that stunt the growth of harmful invaders and even have the potential to slow down abnormal cell growth. 60 million Americans have parasites. It's scary, but ivermectin and mebendazole together, it is the gold standard. Comes from the Wellness Company. I just did it. I just went through this. We did this. You should do it as well. The Wellness Company has a solution to ivermectin and mebendazole. It's FDA approved. Parasite solutions now combined in one cleanse combo. Just fill out a brief medical intake and you get it all. TWC.health/Gruber. TWC.health/Gruber. I was having this conversation with a friend of mine last night. You know, when I was born, Michigan was a wealthy state. It was top 10. Now we're bottom 10. Congratulations, everybody. Just about last in education, last in a couple of places, and we have what some people are now referring to as the second lost decade under Gretchen Whitmer's leadership. Jennifer Granholm gave us the first lost decade a few years back, and now the second one potentially. Now, joining me now is Mike Cox. He's the former Michigan Attorney General. He's running for governor in Michigan, running for the nomination to be the Republican candidate. He joins me now. Mike, nice to see you.
Hey, Steve, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. Look, I don't think it's wrong. Look, we didn't fix the damn roads. I think we're the only state in America that raised taxes on its citizens last year, got rid of right to work. Indiana and Ohio are eating our lunch right now because they have better work policies and business policies, so businesses are going there. They're building a new auto plant. Where? Indiana, not Michigan. Where do you want to start?
It's a litany, right? It reminds me of the old football coach saying, "You are what your record says you are." And as you indicated, only 2 states have 4th grade reading levels are lower than Michigan. Second in unemployment again for the past 6 months. It really is a record of woe. And this really is the second lost decade. But help is on the way. 2026 is going to be here before we know it, Steve. And folks have the opportunity to go out there and vote and make a change. It's really going to be a redo of 2024 because I think the people of Michigan are going to take this state back. And, I'm running not to manage the further decline, but to stage a comeback. And that's what Michigan needs right now.
A number of Republicans in the field, Mike, as you know, it's a pretty crowded field. What's it going to take for you to step out and shine and win that primary come August?
Well, Steve, I'm the only one running who's actually beat Democrats statewide before. And I think a lot of folks dig that, quite frankly. And also, when I won, I not only won, but I did things. For instance, for those who love Trump's policies on DEI and illegal immigration, Steve, as you know, because you were around then, in 2007, I was Attorney General who said that once I found out that the state was issuing driver's licenses to illegal aliens, I stopped that practice. In fact, I defended Governor Brewer, if you remember, in 2010, when there was Senate Bill 1070, where the Obama administration tried to stop Arizona from enforcing immigration laws, its own state immigration laws, and eventually we won that case. At the same time, President Trump is all about getting rid of DEI. In 2003, I told Governor Granholm, no, I will not support the University of Michigan's unconstitutional practices of discrimination against white folks. That ended up in the U.S. Supreme Court. I worked with Jennifer Gratz. We won that case. And later on, she and I and Ward Connerly and some other brave folks stood up against affirmative action and actually made it part of our Michigan Constitution. So folks know when I get there, I get things done. And so, Steve, I'm out there every single day meeting whoever I can, kind of like the biblical,
right.
Wherever two gathered in his name, I'm there right now.
You mentioned 2 things I want to circle back to here, Mike. And you mentioned illegal immigration, and you mentioned the University of Michigan. I want to mention the Chinese Communist Party, its infiltration of the university system in this country, including U of M, where we've seen in recent weeks the arrest of a number of students there for bringing in biological agents, 3 of them arrested for that. Previous to that, we had 5 U of M students arrested up at Camp Grayling for taking pictures during a Taiwanese U.S. military operation, an exercise. How concerned are you about the Chinese infiltration of this country? What about agricultural bioterrorism? Some states are saying, no, the Chinese cannot buy land in our state anymore. They're done with it. South Dakota comes to mind. What would you do in that regard?
Steve, I think it's something, especially if Michigan has been at the forefront. We're the arsenal of democracy in World War II. We still are in Macomb County, as you know, Steve. We are one of the top defense contractors in America. We have more engineering talent right here in Metro Detroit than most anywhere in the world. So we are a target. And as governor, I will make sure our state police works with ICE and with the FBI and the CIA to prevent any infiltration of Michigan universities and Michigan industry. Because I want to restore Michigan's luster as a manufacturing capital of not only the United States, but of the world. And I'm going to do that through worker friendly and job creator friendly policies, like you talked earlier. Right to work, that's job number one. That I'm going to bring that back with a Republican legislature in the spring, in January of 2027. Furthermore, part of our economic policy, in fact, people can go to Mike Cox 2026. Unlike most any other politician's website, you're going to see a lot of work and thought there. And Steve, one of our primary ideas to revive Michigan without corporate subsidies is to lower the tax on work. And Lansing calls that the income tax. I call it the tax on work.
Yeah.
And we eliminate that. It will become a leading economic light of the country again. 10 states currently don't have a tax on work, don't have an income tax. And of course, they're beating Michigan. They're beating most of the nation in job creation and population attraction. And so, getting back to your question, I'm going to make Michigan the place that Chinese want to come and steal our secrets from, because once again, we're going to be on top of the world. But
would you block them? Would you block Chinese ownership of land in Michigan?
I would certainly do that. Absolutely, as governor. We have to figure out how to do that in a way that works with the Interstate Commerce Clause. But absolutely, because Michigan agriculture is the second leading industrial sector in Michigan, we have to protect that.
And let me ask you something about that. Let me ask you something about that, because something that Donald Trump said in the last few days. He said if you're a farmer and you've got people in your employment that have been here for a number of years that are not here legally, but you know them and their family have been here for a number of years, and you will vouch for them and you will take responsibility for them, and then that we can create a path towards legally working here, not towards citizenship, but towards legally working here. What do you think of that idea? Got about a minute left.
I think the president's right on immigration from the very beginning, and I think that's a way ultimately to address our agricultural needs and keep America safe and keep our economy strong.
Mike Cox, go ahead and tell the folks where they can find you again, so they can look you up if they have want to know more.
All right. Well, I'm on X, Mike_Cox, COX. It's really easy to spell. You also go to Mike Cox 2026, MIKECOX 2026. Figure out how Michigan is going to be great again, and that's what it's all about, Steve.
All right, Mike Cox. He was the Attorney General of Michigan for a number of years. Thanks for stopping in, Mike. I'm sure we'll talk again a few times before we make it to the primary. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Take care.
There you have it. Big issues out there right now. And look, the Chinese Communist Party, its intrusion into America's educational system, into farmland, it's a big deal here where I live. Probably is where you are as well. When we come back, we're talking about making you healthy again. You want to talk about that? Make America healthy again, starting with you, my friend, after the break. Welcome back to the program. Glad you're here with me today, as all days. Your health matters. It does, and I talk about a lot in this program because having a healthy, productive life, there's no other way to be. Look, if you're overweight especially, you know, moving is cumbersome, your knees hurt, your legs hurt, you're sore, you don't move around, you don't want to look at the mirror. We're going to help you change that today. I've been doing it for years and years with my next guest, Missy Malone from My Pure Health Solutions, joining me. Missy, we have changed lives together. I make the introduction and you take it from there, and boy, have we changed lives. And I want to say something here about Nikola Tesla. If you want to understand the secrets to the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. That's kind of a big focus of who you are at My Pure Health. You figure out what's different between me and you and every patient that walks through the door, because everybody's different. My weight journey was different than a woman who's, 100 pounds overweight, but is a different age than me, or a guy who's 50 pounds overweight who's younger than I am. Everybody's different, Missy. Everybody's different.
That's right. The secrets to why your metabolism's broken is because it's an inside job. It's an inside cellular job, and that's what we do. That's what we've been doing successfully for a dozen years or so, is helping people get to the root of the problem. If you're overweight, there's an issue on the inside of your body that a one-size-fits-all program is not going to cut the mustard. You might lose some weight, but as soon as you stop buying their shakes or bars or pills or whatever it is that they talk to you into buying, You're going to get it all back. You're going to get it all back.
Well, and the other thing look, I did My Pure Health back in 2018. It changed my life. I lost almost 50 pounds, had no idea I had that much extra, I didn't feel it. I was still young enough then, didn't matter to me. If I had that weight today, that'd be a problem. But here's the thing. Your program, 20 days, 30 days, 40 days, whatever somebody selects, you do the program. You learn how to eat real food. You're not depriving yourself. You're not tricking your body. You're not using pharmaceuticals. You're not paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars month after month after month after month.
Right.
You learn how to use the equipment, I guess, right? The equipment being your body.
Right. So thanks to technology, thanks to people like Tesla, they showed us that science has cracked the code on what's going on the inside of the client's body. So we have to look at 2,800 biological markers. That's what's controlling your metabolism. It's endocrines, it's your hormone endocrine, it's your gastrointestinal system, it's your enzymes, antioxidants. It's 2,800 biological markers that's controlling the metabolism, and you don't know which one of those biomarkers stopped working. When we do a scan on our clients, using technology, we're able to figure out exactly what's going on inside your body. Your body will always tell us what's wrong, and then we give you a customized program. We give you a customized weight loss formula, detox formula, all built and designed for you. That's why it works, because we're fixing the problem.
Yeah, and some people look at, it's just a math problem, too many calories in, too many calories out. There's some truth that, however, for me, I figured out through your program, one of my trigger foods is rice. I like rice, but rice, for whatever reason, hangs out with me long after I've eaten the rice. That's true of a lot of people. They have different foods that affect them differently, because at the macro level, you've got these foods that impact you differently. And so rice is one of them. And these are the things that I identified by going through the scan, having you study my profile, which is pages and pages long. You get a scientific explanation of what's going on with your body with Missy before you get launched into the program. But the success stories are many. I know you've got some folks here. You could like to share a couple of pictures while we do this, Missy. But the fact of the matter is, everybody's different. The frequency's different, just like Nikola Tesla said. And once you dial in your frequency, you can have success like these folks.
Yeah, like that one right there. She just bought a Well Connect from you, I think yesterday, and she ran into the guy, Tim. She called me. She's like, "Oh my gosh, I met Tim from Well Connect," and she's like, "And I told him I lost 60 pounds because of Steve Gruber." Yeah, she's one of your Gruber fans. So that picture of her, Tammy lost. That was in 4 months. She lost. She went from 220 pounds down to 160 pounds. She was a size 18. She's down to an 8. And she told me that she's thinner now than she was 36 years ago when she got married. It has nothing to do with
stories we love.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with age. It's all on the chemistry set on the inside of your body. And there you go. Yep. And it's not about age.
No, and here's the other thing. Anywhere in America, you can have, it used to be you had to go to the office there near Kalamazoo, Michigan. You had to come into the office and do the scan there. That's not true anymore because of technology and computers and the way we connect in this world. Missy, you can check out somebody in Alaska, somebody in the tip of Florida, somebody in California, somebody, 2 blocks down the street from where your office is. They still don't have to come into the office. They can do it from the privacy of their home. And look, I understand. Some people are embarrassed. They don't want to go out in public because they're embarrassed. They're ashamed of the way they look, and they don't want to see the mirror, and they don't want to go out in public. So this makes it much easier, comfort of your own home, right?
And we talk to you every week. That guy right there, he'd been overweight since he was 5 years old. His mom put him on Weight Watchers when he was 8. He joined the army because he couldn't lose weight, hoping the army could help him. That happened, and he never lost weight. That happened to him in 40 days. Because when you fix the problem, if the power goes out in your living room, you're going to walk over to the breaker box, flip the switch, the power comes back into the living room. No one calls that a miracle. No one should call it a miracle when your metabolism is brought back to life. That's what happens. And people get off of medications. We've said it before on your show. You've had one of your clients, one of your listeners, I should say, get off the 10. He's been on chemotherapy for over 10 years, low dose of chemotherapy for 10 years. After he did fat burn, the doctor's like, I don't know what you've done, but your blood work looks like you're a healthy young man in your 20s. Pulled him off of all
there
it.
You go.
Type
and there
2
it
diabetes,
is,
all of it.
Yeah. So instead of getting on a new drug, why don't we get off the old ones and feel better? Get our frequency dialed in properly. Do it with My Pure Health Solutions. Like I said, stay off and don't be on something you're going to be, on for months or years. Don't do that. No. Try My Pure Health Solutions. And my advice to you is go to gruberhealth.com, gruberhealth.com. You can go there right now. Missy always has some specials for the Gruber listeners, which I appreciate. And the success stories, all of these people you're seeing here are listeners and viewers of this program, and they believe in it. I'll give you 15 seconds. Last word, Missy.
Yeah. The average man in 40 days loses anywhere from 35 to 55 pounds. The average lady in 40 days will lose anywhere from 25 to 32 pounds. That's 2 to 3 pant sizes because we're burning fat. We're turning the metabolism back on. And we show you how to keep it off.
You can do it too. If you're watching saying, well, if Gruber can do it, that's right, you can do it. Gruberhealth.com, gruberhealth.com. Check it out. Missy, always appreciate seeing you. Thank you.
Thank you. God bless.
Let's change your life, folks. Gruberhealth.com. I'll be right back. right. Well, I'm glad you're here for the conversation on a Monday. Certainly are. Saddened again, though, I am. I am sad. Every time I look up and I see one of these mass shootings anywhere, it makes me sad. It doesn't make me want to give up my rights to defend myself and my family. But I just think, man, this is not the world I grew up in. It's not. It's not the world I grew up in. I mean, when I was a kid, we took guns to school in the fall, in the trunk of the car or whatever. We had cars then before SUVs, right? I had a van. And during hunting season, sometimes you have a shotgun in there, right? You're going out deer hunting or whatever you're doing after school. We just didn't walk down the hall pulling the trigger. That was the difference. What the hell's happened to people? Anyhow, a gunman killed 2, wounded 2 more at a Lexington church, a little church, just a little old school church called Richmond Road Baptist Church. Guy went, he's dead. The shooter's dead. But no idea why. A woman 72 and a woman 32 killed. Another man in critical condition. Looks like he might pull through. Yes, it's just terrible. Here's something that's good for anybody in the northern United States. If you've got a well in your yard, you're already halfway to a geothermal system that could save you up to 90% on your heating and cooling. It's true. The Well Connect system, I've known these people for years now. It's a patented system. It's built in Michigan, so it's an American-made product that uses your well to create a state-of-the-art heat pump. It'll heat your house for next to nothing. It cools it basically for free. You'll cut your heating costs potentially by up to 50%. If you live in the country or anywhere, then you have a well in your yard, the Well Connect. Man, just go check it out. Nothing to lose. In fact, even if you finance this system, you'll save more on your utilities than the payment. You'll be money ahead. Plus, this year there are still incentives being provided by the federal government that may be going away at the end of the year. So if you want to do a geothermal system, today is the day to act. WellConnect Geo, WellConnectGeo.com. WellConnectGeo.com. Coming up in the next hour, we're going to talk about the abuse of judicial authority because we see judges blocking Donald Trump even though the Supreme Court has ruled. We're going to talk about that in just a couple of minutes here. Stick around. from Studio G, fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom every single day. Here we go into another brand new hour of the Steve Gruber Show. I'm glad you're here. Remember, the show often results in extended periods of American pride and optimism, so be warned, you could be triggered into loving this country. It's live in all 50 states and around the world. It's a dirty job, and I'm going to do it just for you right now. Here are 3 big things you need to know. Number 1, did you hear? The United States posted a $27 billion surplus in June. That's right, we're back in black. It's been a long time since that happened. Number 2, why are Democrats defending the idea of child labor is okay as long as it's at a marijuana farm in California? I mean, seriously, this is so far in left field, I don't know what to make of it. And number 3, despite all that has happened, the left continues to peddle garbage that none of us are buying into. Let me explain. We start here. Let me explain with this. 5 years ago, the kook Bernie Sanders said we only had 6 years left. Yeah, remember the hysteria. I want to start with this, a little bit of historical knowledge. Bernie Sanders said we only had 6 years left or we are all going to die. Well, it's 5 years in. I guess you got 1 year to go. Better buy some beer. Listen to this.
What I tell these workers is that the scientists are telling us that if we don't act incredibly boldly within the next 6-7 years, there will be irreparable damage done, not just to Nevada, not just to Vermont or Massachusetts, but to the entire world. Joe said it right. This is an existential threat. You know what that means, Chuck? That means we're fighting for the future of this planet. And the Green New Deal that I support, by the way, will create up to 20 million good-paying jobs as we move our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy.
Yeah. 6 years. Hey, Bernie, I'm going to have a ribeye and a bourbon. All right, just throwing it out. I'm going to have a ribeye and a bourbon. Why? Because I'm not worried about your hysteria. Yeah, it was 90 degrees over the weekend. Climate change? No, just July. Yeah, July. Anyhow, by the way, speaking of that ribeye, at the United Nations, they say, you can't have a ribeye. Gruber, you can't have a ribeye because you're destroying the planet. Well, good for me. Make mine extra marbled, please. No, not kidding. The way to save the planet, of course, is to destroy agriculture because agriculture creates climate change. So, you know, we could save 8 million lives a year if we destroyed agriculture. Of course, we'll starve 4 billion in the process. Anyhow, listen to this nonsense.
Systems are harming the health of people and planet. Food systems contribute to over 30% of greenhouse gas emissions and account for almost 1/3 of the global burden of disease. Transforming food systems is therefore essential by shifting towards healthier, diversified, and more plant-based diets. If food systems delivered healthy diets for all, we could save 8 million lives per year. WHO is committed to supporting countries to develop and implement policies to improve diets and fight climate change. I'm therefore very pleased that over 130 countries have signed the COP28 UAE Declaration on Climate and Health. Together, we can protect and promote the health of both people and planet.
Yeah. See, agriculture has those dirty fields of corn and wheat, those rotten cows, goats, pigs. Please. Let's see here. Oh, and while we're on our road to utopia with the Democrats, you will keep your mouth shut. And if you don't, we'll just censor you. So says my good friend, my hero, Hillary Clinton. Here she is.
Platforms, whether it's Facebook or Twitter X or Instagram or TikTok, whatever they are, if they don't moderate and monitor the content, we lose total control. And it's not just the social and psychological effects, it's real harm.
It's real harm, you see. So what if you talk about something that's controversial? What if you suggest something like, hey, this rain in Texas seems to be excessive. More flooding, more flooding, more flooding. You know, the rain in Dubai here a couple of years ago when Dubai flooded. They were cloud seeding, you know, when that happened. So cloud seeding, weather manipulation. It's front of mind for a lot of folks. Is it causing these events in Texas? I don't know, but I can't say no. And that's important. I can't say it's not causing these events. And it's worthy of asking the questions. Is weather manipulation partially responsible or totally responsible for what has happened in Texas, for example? Well, even when CNN tries to make you think it's not real, weather modification is verified by a weather modification CEO. Listen.
When you are accused of engineering the weather and weather modification, what would you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, for one, I think that this is a very consequential technology, right? Not just anybody should be allowed to modify the weather. There should be oversight and transparency.
Yeah, it's a very powerful technology. He just said so. And there should be oversight and control. Not just anybody should do it. So is it real? Of course it's real. Oh, and by the way, you know what else is real? Thought police. Thought police are very real. As I wrap up this idea, listen to this.
Wearable devices. So these are brain sensors that are starting to be embedded in everyday devices, but until now have been a number of niche companies that really have focused on mindfulness and meditation. The use of, for example, brain sensors that can pick up electrical activity in the brain at a pretty low resolution, but advances in AI have both improved what the signal is that can come from the brain and enabled the miniaturization of those products. As a lot of the major tech companies start to invest in these brain sensors, it's a huge, I think, untapped market in many ways of integrating them into everyday devices. These are earbuds or watches or headphones and the soft cups around the ears. Many of those products are hitting the market this year, and others are hitting them within the next 2 years, such that people can listen to music, a phone call, etc., while having those devices in ears. Initially, what they will be capable of doing is very high-level brain state reading. Things like, are you tired? Are you paying attention? Is your mind wandering? Are you happy or sad? They maybe enable interaction like up, down, left, right for interaction with other technologies. And they're being embedded into things like virtual reality headset.
Wow. The advancement of the thought police. Good thought, bad thought. Right thought, wrong thought. Corrective technology. It's exciting, isn't it? Now, I get it if you're a paraplegic and you have an opportunity to function more fully again. I love that. But putting in earbuds and making me feel up or down, left or right. No. Stop. Stop. I don't need all that. Interesting, isn't it? Good and bad, all wrapped in. All right, we're going to take a break. When I come back, Mike O'Neill, we're going to talk about judicial activism in America that continues to this day after the break. Leading into it as we continue on now. Judicial activism. You know, it's remarkable. The Supreme Court comes along and says, you can't do this, this, and this. And yet, Samuel Alito was right. If you leave the door open, they're going to find a way to abuse the opportunity, which they have. Judicial activism continuing as apparently, for example, if you're not a citizen of the United States, which is about, 8 billion people, whatever, 7.5 billion, 8 billion people. If you're not a citizen of the United States, now you're part of a class for a class action lawsuit to demand that the borders remain open. It's strange. Mike O'Neill is the VP of Legal Affairs for the Landmark Foundation. Mike, thank you for being here. The abuse of judicial authority. I see it. Well, we still see it every day. The Supreme Court comes in and issues a decision, and these activist judges, well, they'll find a way to create a class, even though there's 3 questions to create a class. They don't even do the 3 questions. They don't care. They declare a class. I mean, is every person that's not a citizen of the United States in a class? That makes no sense, does it?
Certainly not. But we, as you said, Justice Alito indicated that this door was left open in that decision, a CASA decision from a couple weeks ago. And of course, it took the left, ACLU and these interest groups a week to exploit it and find a sympathetic judge and be able to walk right through that. And what you're seeing here in these emergency orders that are being issued, and you indicated it in a second ago, Steve, is real no serious analysis to get to the root of the law and the precedents that are at play in these cases. I mean, let's just take that incident from up in Massachusetts where the judge has set aside funding for Planned Parenthood. Remember the big beautiful bill, what it said was it defunded Planned Parenthood. Well, of course, Planned Parenthood ran to a sympathetic judge and obtained a temporary restraining order almost immediately. And the temporary restraining order said that Health and Human Services had to actually fund Planned Parenthood contra the directive from Congress. So it wasn't enough that you saw a judge appropriating the executive power. Now you're seeing a judge appropriating the legislative power, the power of Congress, probably one of the most important powers Congress has. And that's, of course, to decide how our American tax dollars are funded. And what happened here? Well, the Trump administration, who's doing exactly what they need to do, they're waging these battles in courts across the country. They filed a motion to dissolve this temporary restraining order, pointing out all of the problems in this order. Again, the order was only 2 pages long. You're having a judge in 2 pages saying that Planned Parenthood needs to be funded contra a directive from Congress, a legitimate law passed by Congress, signed by the President of the United States.
Mike, what's the recourse? What's the recourse? Look, I just like how the left always, it's a constitutional crisis. No, this is a constitutional crisis. The Supreme Court has weighed in. The executive issues an order, or the Congress issues whatever they do, and these judges come in and try to neutralize it and neuter it all. That's a constitutional crisis. What is the remedy? Do you ignore the ruling from the judge? Do you ignore the injunction? Can you? I mean, what is the next step?
Well, what you see, the Trump administration is fighting this through the legal process. And when these cases get up, they're appealing them as quickly as possible, moving to dissolve them, following the rules of civil procedure, the legal precedents that are in play here. But outside of the Department of Justice and the Trump administration, what can be done? Well, number one, Congress has jurisdiction over these inferior courts. So there is a role for Congress to play here. I think particularly when you see judges taking the powers away from Congress, Congress needs to step up and say, hey, wait a minute. We have the power of the purse here. Courts, you don't have the power to tell us how we're supposed to spend the American people's money. So Congress can do a couple things. Of course, they can limit the jurisdiction of these courts through legislation. They can also, and again, I don't come to this conclusion very easily because I don't like the way the left has weaponized it, but the impeachment power is in play here. And the Congress does have the power to consider impeaching these judges who are.
And why does that not happen? I mean, that never happens because here's the problem. When Trump wins or his administration wins, these activist judges don't care. They just find the next little place where they can sneak through and try to jam this basically up the backside of the American people, right?
Yeah, and I think so. You can consider those items, and then the other item, of course, is continue to fight this in the courts. I mean, there was an Axio report that came out, I think, over the weekend, and you see what happens when these cases migrate up to the Supreme Court on the emergency docket. More often than not, the administration wins because why? Because they're complying with the rule of law and the judges are operating outside the rule of law. So ideally, again, I don't know. If you talked to me a couple of weeks ago, Steve, I would have said Trump versus CASA was going to be enough, right? Trump versus CASA was going to say, if you read Justice Barrett's opinion, you saw that she was essentially saying, if you read between the lines, hey, judges, stay within your constitutional lanes here. Don't go outside the scope of your authority. But of course, that message certainly didn't resonate with the activist judges. And again, look at where they generally are, Steve. You're seeing these cases up in New England and California, right? And so I think the recourse is to continue to fight these battles one at a time, take them up through the appellate courts, get the Supreme Court to continue to smack them down. But it's a long, drawn-out process, and we know what's going on here. The goal, of course, is not to necessarily stop this, but is to slow it down enough to the midterm elections to get a new Congress and to slow the implementation of the Trump agenda.
Yeah, it's exactly to hurt him any way they can. That's what this is, which is
hurt the American people.
Or the American people, or the voters for Donald Trump, to set them back because they believe, these judges believe they are smarter than the voters. They're wiser than Donald Trump and smarter than the voters, and therefore they should be the ones making the decisions because these peasants, this MAGA movement peasant thing, they cannot tolerate. That's it. I'll give you the last word, Mike.
Yeah, certainly. I think what we need to do is the Trump administration is doing everything right. They're fighting these cases. They're complying with the orders to the extent to which they can. They're legally bound to, but they're taking the necessary steps through the appellate process, through the civil process. And when you see that the merits of these cases are argued, the Trump administration's positions are clearly the legal positions, and the judges are the ones that are operating well outside the scope of their authority.
You got that right. Mike O'Neill. He's the VP of Legal Affairs Landmark Foundation. Mike, thank you for being here. You come back anytime.
Take care, Steve. Have a great day.
You too. Appreciate it. There you have it. What do you make of it? Again, I'm back to driving people to sending me emails. Go to stevegruber.com. Read Liberty Page every day. It'll make you bigger, stronger, and smarter. Oh, and by the way, Satire Saturday from Liberty Page. You're going to appreciate her wise-ass remarks, I think is the only way to put it. I'll be back in a moment after this. All right, child predators. I talked about this, couple of things. I talked about this weed farm in California, Glass House or whatever it was called, right? Whatever it was called, something like that, Glass Farm or something like that. When they went in there, ICE went in there, did a raid of this weed farm, right? And there were 10 kids, children 17 and under, so under 18. And I actually heard arguments on CNN, well, child labor is okay. No, actually, it's illegal for anyone under 18 to work in a marijuana grow facility, period, paragraph. The fact that the Democrats would get out there and defend child labor at all is remarkable. And these kids are here illegally. They've been trafficked into the country to do what? To work, to be cheap slave labor. That's what they are. They're cheap slave labor. They get a little bit of money. They're working with weed. They get a sandwich here and there. Maybe no money at all. I don't actually know. I'm hypothesizing they might get a little bit of money. I don't actually know that. But basically, they're slave labor. 300,000 kids still missing from the Biden years. 300,000 kids were brought into this country and passed off to whomever. Oh, this is my cousin, my uncle, my whatever. Passed off to whomever. We didn't verify who they were going with, of course, and then they happened in sweatshops. In this particular case, it's a marijuana grow operation. That's just one marijuana grow operation in California. Where are the rest? Where are they working? What are they doing? In the marijuana trade, the sex trade, working in other sweatshops? It's disgusting. And the fact that CNN would try to defend the fact that these kids were working. Oh, they're working. They weren't picking apples, pal. They were growing dope. All right? It's revolting, actually. It's indefensible. It's indefensible that these kids were trafficked into America to grow weed and to cultivate weed, period. There is no argument there. I'll take a break. It just really irritates the hell out of me. I'll be right back after this. All right, kicking off another segment here on the program and looking at everything that's going on, all right? Look, the economy is in pretty good shape. We posted a budget surplus for the first time in a very long, $27 billion surplus in June. Totally unexpected, of course. Receipts, $526 billion. Outlays, $499 billion. So $27 billion surplus. So you have to say the tariffs seem to be working from where I stand. I mean, I don't know how else you would explain this. Maybe there's some information other places. But joining me now is Ryan Long. He's a former senior policy advisor and Paragon's director of congressional relations, senior research fellow. Former counsel, by the way, to Congressman Kevin McCarthy during his rise from minority leader to Speaker of the House. Good to have you here. I appreciate you taking the time, Ryan.
Oh, thanks, Steve. Appreciate being here.
Let me ask you, we'll get back to that in a second. Let me ask you about the big, beautiful bill. I mean, it took a long time to get there. Obviously, Kevin McCarthy, after he lost the gavel, stepped aside, got out of the way, moved on, as you know. What do you make of the slim majority Republicans have right now and what they've been able to get done? Is it enough? Should we demand more? What are you seeing from where you sit?
Well, I think you got to give a lot of credit to Speaker Johnson, Leader Thune, President Trump. These are very tight margins in the House. I mean, you got a 3-vote margin in the House and a 3-vote margin in the Senate. So to get a bill that extends all of the tax cuts from 2017, that provides pro-growth sort of tax policy for the future, as well as protecting our border, strengthening our military, and getting spending under control was a very difficult task. And I think they deserve a lot of credit.
So, I mean, you look at things like inflation. I think it's at 2.3%. Unemployment's at 4.1%. I mean, these are pretty damn good numbers by any measure, aren't they?
Well, especially if you look at the past 4 years, where,
Sure,
in the Biden administration, we were looking at low growth, high inflation. I mean, the fact that people were bringing back the term stagflation is scary. And now we have an economy like we had in 2017, 18, 19, where wages are up, inflation is low. And I think people are optimistic about the future.
So what about the tariffs? I mentioned those a moment ago. Let's dig into that a little bit. More tariffs or threats of increased tariffs on the calendar for August 1. What do you make of it? I mean, we've gotten Vietnam to the table. We've gotten some other big deals to the table. The UK came on board, but the EU still out there. Don't have a final deal with China. Canada still, whatever's going on there. What do you make of the tariffs? It seems that they've directed policy reasonably well. We have not seen it, all of the people on the other side of the aisle say, oh, it's going to spike inflation. The American consumer is going to pay the price. That certainly has not happened. There's no evidence of that at all, in fact, that I can see. What do you make of them?
Well, I mean, we haven't seen an impact on inflation, and we got to see what comes up as we get closer to these deadlines. But I think what the president was trying to do is say, let's have a level playing field as it relates to trade. We can't have a system in which we have sort of unfettered access to American markets, but U.S. producers, face tariffs or non-tariff trade barriers from other countries. So I think we're slowly getting to these types of agreements that can, again, allow American companies to flourish both domestically and internationally on their trade.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I keep the government Office of Accountability, right? And all these other agencies keep predicting things that just don't come true. They keep predicting, we're going to have these problems and the receipts are going to be done. And I'm looking at this $27 billion budget surplus. I'm looking at all this and the economy. Are they really this bad at their job? Or do they just want to say things about Trump that turn out, just to kind of salt the commentary when it turns out not to be true? I mean, it's pretty obvious these folks will just find anything to destroy Trump if you go back now and realize what Brennan and Comey and all these people did. But we still have this many dishonest people in government. I mean, you worked in there. You were inside the belly of the beast. What do you think?
Well, I do think that there are some that have a liberal bias in how they look at the world. And so when it comes to things like pro-growth tax policy, they always underestimate what the actual result's going to be. The 2017 tax cuts saw an explosion in revenue, much more than the Congressional Budget Office and the Joint Committee on Taxation ever predicted. You've seen it in healthcare. In healthcare, they said if you repeal the individual mandate, it's going to leave 5 to 10 million people uninsured. And when it was repealed, it didn't have an effect at all. And so I do think you have to take some of these numbers with a grain of salt. You have to take into account sort of bias of people, whether it's implicit or explicit bias. But we do know that if you have a system pro-growth tax policy, you're going to actually increase revenue, not decrease it.
Absolutely true. So do you think the policies that are in place, I mean, and here's the other thing that's part of this whole mix right now. The markets are doing quite well for most people, pretty reasonably right now, and setting all-time highs. Bitcoin is at almost $120,000. You see some positive things in the economy. Are there things that concern you? I mean, the projected inflation for last month is 2.8%. They've been wrong about this every time, so I don't know if it's going to be right or wrong. A little bit higher, but not over 3%, which brings me back to the Fed and how the Fed behaves. Should Donald Trump make a change with Jerome Powell? What do you think?
Well, I'm going to say one other thing that I think is happening. Wages are increasing faster than inflation, which was something that we didn't see a lot of in the past 4 years. Whether Trump makes a change at the Fed or not, I don't know that I have the expertise to be able to weigh in on that. But I do think it's interesting the fact that they did reduce rates right before the election when inflation was higher, and now they're not reducing rates. So that does lead to some questions.
Let me ask you about this whole investigation that's been launched now by the FBI and the Department of Justice. John Brennan, James Comey, James Clapper, Barack Obama, all. And look, Barack Obama knew about this whole deal with Hillary Clinton and the Russia hoax. He knew about the whole dossier, the Christopher Steele dossier, as did Brennan, Comey, and Clapper. Now there's an investigation. Does it go anywhere? Here's one of the things that the MAGA folks are not pleased about. Nobody's been arrested for much of anything that I can find anything. Nobody's been held accountable. And this two-tier system of justice really concerns people. What do you say?
Well, I mean, I don't know Kash Patel personally. I do know people that do, and they say, one, he doesn't give up, and he's a man that has a lot of integrity. We know for a fact that there are things that happened in 2016 related to the Russia investigation that was manufactured by the CIA, the Steele dossier that should have never been included in intelligence community assessment. The fact that, as Radcliffe said last week in his report, that it was so rushed that it sort of broke every sort of tradition and protocol of the CIA in putting these things together. On top of the fact that we know the Steele dossier originated from the Clinton campaign, all of those things should have been sort of brought to light in 2016, but they weren't. They were continuously covered up.
They were.
We get more and more details every day.
Let me have you hold that thought. Let me have you hold that thought just for a moment there, Ryan. I want to hold you through the break here. I want to finish this conversation. I want to ask you about the whole Jeffrey Epstein dust up, being a Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, and all that. Back after this with Ryan Long on the Steve Gruber Show. Back at it now on the Steve Gruber Show on a Monday. Glad you're here for the conversation. Ryan Long is with me, former senior policy advisor and Paragon's director of congressional relations. Worked for Kevin McCarthy, worked for Fred Upton and other members of Congress. We're just kind of taking I don't know, the pulse of the political world today. I want you to finish your thoughts on Brennan, Comey, Clapper, Obama. Look, they were all in this thing together. We know what happened with Crossfire Hurricane. We know what happened, from that investigation. We know that the Russia hoax was exactly that, a complete hoax, right? I mean, it was. There's no truth to it at all. And then, strangely enough, in August of 2020, 20,000 driver's licenses were found coming in illegally, fabricated from China, to people in the United States so they could vote illegally. And Christopher Wray said, we'll just quietly put that to the side, which they did. Ryan, it's remarkable the things that have come to light. Go on.
Well, I also think he may have misled Congress in his testimony, saying that there wasn't.
Pretty clearly misled Congress. I mean, what he says now completely contradicts exactly what he said in front of Congress just as recently as 2023, right?
100%. And I think you had the same thing with Brennan and Clapper as related to the Steele dossier. I think they probably lied to Congress as well. I mean, it is a pattern, and I think that's a pattern that concerns a lot of American people is, what type of power do these non-elected bureaucrats have, particularly in the Intelligence Committee, that can effectively kneecap a presidency, which is what they did in Trump's first term, unfortunately.
Well, they've been trying to do it ever since. They've been doing it. It's a 10-year operation. And look, there's still people in there working out, which brings me to the next part of the conversation here, which is what is the truth? And because this is what I hypothesized at the top of the program today, is that, the Biden people had access to Jeffrey Epstein's records, flight logs, files, whatever you want to call them, for 4 years. I didn't hear one Democrat calling for transparency, screaming that the files be released. They've had them for 4 years. Pam Bondi and Kash Patel thought they knew what they had, and now all of a sudden they're saying, there's nothing, that we don't need to look at this any further. Makes me think that the files, whatever they may be, have been adulterated. Some things taken out, other things salted in. Why wouldn't I believe that based on what I learned from Crossfire Hurricane and how dishonest these people really will be? Your thoughts?
Well, I think we've seen from the previous 8 years that if they had something that was detrimental to President Trump, it would have been released.
That's right.
We've seen that time
100%. I mean, not only would it have been released, they'd have been on the talking tour at Chicken Noodle News, at MSNBC, and the New York Times, and LA Times. They'd be everywhere. You wouldn't be able to swing a stick without hitting one of these people, postulating about Donald Trump and blah, 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 blah. But it's not there. And suddenly, my working theory is that somehow the files, whatever they may have been completely manipulated, adulterated, things taken out, real people. So you can't trust whatever's left because it was in the hands of those people, and maybe salted with, here's Donald Trump, something to that extent. That's my theory.
I don't know what's in the files, and I don't know what the Attorney General has seen and the FBI has seen. But I do think this has resonated with the American people because they are concerned about a two-tiered system of justice, that the rich and powerful aren't necessarily held to the same standards as ordinary people. And I think that's really at the heart of a lot of the things related to the Epstein files.
Let me ask you this, Ryan, because this is that's my first working theory you've heard. Here's my second. The second is it reaches into the places of power, not just in America, but around the world. So the question would be, would you risk a war in the Middle East over what's on the Jeffrey Epstein files? Would you risk returning to Democrat leadership and an open border and all the failed policies we saw for the last 4 years? Would you risk that if the Epstein files exposed, people in places that would create that kind of a firestorm? I mean, what is it worth to see a list of degenerates? I get it on the two-tiered system of justice and totally agree with you, but at what price, I guess, is the question. At what price?
I mean, that's a great question, and those are things that I don't have any insight into. And
neither of us do. I mean, we're left to wonder why did we go from, I've seen this. I mean, I've got Alan Dershowitz saying he's seen the list, but he can't talk about it because of attorney-client privilege, which, by the way, I don't buy. But you've got Bill O'Reilly saying he talked to the president face-to-face on St. Patrick's Day and talked about all these things that are in there that they were aware of and clearly knew about And all of a sudden it's like, we don't want to talk about this anymore, but I support Pam Bondi 100%. He's not letting her take the fall for it, the president. So it leaves us to speculate because when there's no information, we fill the vacuum. I'll give you the last word.
Well, I mean, that's 100%, and that's 100% true. We also heard that there was information earlier this year. And so what did they have? I think that they're going to have to explain a little bit more to the American people. But, whether it was, the files were doctored by the Biden administration, so it's not what they thought they had. There are a lot of questions, I think, that will need to be answered and will be answered.
The auto pen president. What did he know? What didn't he know? What was done? What wasn't done? I don't think he was running much of anything. He couldn't run a bath. How could he run a country? Ryan Long, greatly appreciate you being here, sir. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate it, Steve. Thank you.
Yep. Talk anytime. Yeah, Ryan Long. All right. So for those of you wondering, what powers this program? 1775 coffee. How about that? 1775 coffee. We started drinking this a few months ago. We absolutely love it. And how about this? They just launched Rejuvenate. It's the first anti-aging coffee of its kind. If you love coffee, you're going to love this. Introducing Rejuvenate from 1775 Coffee. First ever coffee infused with CAAKG. It's a clinically studied ingredient that it supports strength, energy, healthy aging at the cellular level. Here's the deal. CAAKG levels drop as we age. That means slower recovery, lower energy, feeling older than we should. You know all those feelings that you have today. But now there's a simple way to fight back without changing your routine. Rejuvenate is real coffee, just smarter. The same bold flavor, the same daily ritual, but now it's fueling your body with more. And right now, you can grab the longevity bundle. Over $250 worth of premium coffee and gear for $99. There's only a few available. Get them when you can. When they're gone, they're gone. 2 bags of Rejuvenate anti-aging coffee, a rare Peabody roast. An exclusive 1775 gear. You won't find it in the stores. 1775coffee.com/Gruber. Grab yours now, 1775coffee.com/Gruber. It's a special offer, and it's going quickly. It's our coffee. We love it here. Program. I'll be right back. welcome back to it now. It's time to check in on sports with Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. A full schedule of games in Major League Baseball yesterday. The last day before the All-Star break. American League winners included Boston, Cleveland, and Seattle. National League winners included Miami, Pittsburgh, and Arizona. Yannick Sinner dethroned two-time defending champ Carlos Alcaraz to take the men's singles title at Wimbledon yesterday. Sinner beat Alcaraz 4-6, 6-4, 6-4, and 6-4. It's Sinner's first Wimbledon title and fourth major title overall. Chris Gotterup shot a final round 66 to win the PGA Tour Scottish Open yesterday in Scotland. He beat Marco Penge and Rory McIlroy by 2 shots to get the win. With the victory, Gotterup qualifies for this week's British Open. And Shane Van Gisbergen won the NASCAR Toyota Save Mart 350 yesterday at Sonoma Raceway in California. It's Van Gisbergen's second straight win. He won in Chicago last week and third victory overall. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
The Grand Conspiracy. The Grand Conspiracy. That's what John Solomon is calling it, and maybe others are as well. It's the Grand Conspiracy Probe. We're going to be opening the next hour with this. Hot off the presses from Just the News and my good friend John Solomon. What do they know? When do they know it? 2 secret documents regarding DOJ and the FBI's Clinton-era antics could be key if the Trump administration declassifies them. That's right. It's a huge deal. The Grand Conspiracy case opened several weeks ago. After the new FBI Director Kash Patel took over, it could get a significant boost if Trump were to declassify 2 secret tranches of evidence that identify a potential ignition point in the conspiracy of 2016. It's all here. FISA, Jack Smith, Comey, Brennan, Barack Obama. It's all here. I've got it in my hands. You're going to want to hear all about this coming up in the next hour. It is a stunning series, and not just one, a stunning series of revelations. Yeah. Mike Flynn, remember him? Oh, it's all in here. It's all right here. I'll be back with all of it on the Steve Gruber Show. All right, blasting off into another brand new hour here of the Steve Gruber Show. I'm glad to have you on board. And look, I've got something hot off the presses here. So, Brock, give me 3 whip cracks. Go ahead. There's 1. There's 2. There's 3. Because here's all 3 of the big 3 that you need to know this hour. Here's the headline from John Solomon. The FBI opens grand conspiracy probe on weaponization, opening door to special prosecutor. The FBI has quietly launched an investigation into a decade of Democratic Party and deep state antics, from Russia collusion to Jack Smith, opening the door for the appointment of a special prosecutor to examine whether the well-documented episodes amount to a criminal conspiracy to meddle in 3 U.S. elections. 3. To benefit the Democrats to the detriment of President Donald Trump. This according to Just the News and John Solomon again. The grand conspiracy case opened several weeks ago after new FBI Director Kash Patel took over. It could get a significant boost if Trump were to declassify 2 secret tranches of evidence, so writes John, that identify a potential ignition point to the alleged conspiracy in the summer of 2016, according to several people directly familiar with the inquiry, who spoke to Just the News, as long as they remained anonymous. The first piece of evidence is a classified annex to a years-old Inspector General probe of Hillary Clinton's improper email server sought by Senate Judiciary Committee Chair Chuck Grassley. That annex is believed to show that credible information about possible wrongdoing was intentionally ignored by the FBI. The second tranche, identified by John Durham, the special counsel, in his final report, the evidence dubbed in the report as the Clinton Plan Intelligence, also placed in a classified annex kept away from the American public, you and I, and also kept secret from members of Congress. Excerpts from the publicly available and unclassified Durham report show that U.S. spy agencies were aware that Clinton's 2016 campaign was concocting a bogus Russia collusion narrative to harm Trump's election chances before the FBI opened its now completely discredited Crossfire Hurricane probe, in part using evidence created by the Clinton campaign. Both pieces of evidence have remained sealed from public view for nearly a decade and are highly classified because they reveal sensitive intelligence gathering methods. The FBI declined comment. CIA Director John Ratcliffe earlier this month released a scathing review of the U.S. intelligence community's assessment of Russian influence, criticizing then CIA Director John Brennan for joining the FBI and pushing to include the disgraced British ex-spy Christopher Steele's baseless, fabricated anti-Trump dossier. In particular, Ratcliffe concluded this. Then CIA Director John Brennan showed a preference for narrative consistency over analytical soundness. He called the smear campaign against Trump atypical and corrupt under the politically charged environments of former Director Brennan and former FBI Director Comey. Now, if Trump declassifies the Grassley and Durham documents, prosecutors could submit them to a grand jury. This is where it gets good. Could submit them to a grand jury in an effort to try to show a distinct pattern of the FBI and spy agencies willfully ignoring intelligence or evidence damaging to Democrats while relentlessly pursuing Trump with evidence that was often flawed or possibly faked. Trump administration officials have weighed naming a special prosecutor to probe the recent bombshell revelations reported by Just the News that the FBI received human source intelligence, some corroborating evidence that China was engaged in a scheme to fake mail-in ballots in 2020 to help Joe Biden win. We know that in August of 24, 20,000 fake driver's licenses created in China were taken and seized in Chicago at O'Hare International Airport. It all plays in. The 5-year statute of limitation in that inquiry is only weeks away from expiring for the 2020 matter, leaving the potential for criminal charges and other accountability almost impossibly tight. But the overarching conspiracy case opened by Patel's FBI offers a more expansive approach that would allow a special prosecutor time to tie alleged criminal events currently covered by statute of limitations to older events, treating them as part of an ongoing conspiracy which has gone on for 10 years. I encourage you to read this entire article. I'm only going to get to a couple of pages here. The grand conspiracy probe would open the door to impanel a grand jury outside of Washington, D.C. For example, if one of these things happened in Florida, you could open the grand jury in Florida. CNN reported that only one Republican presidential candidate has ever won more than 20% of D.C.'s vote, Richard Nixon, 1972. In the last election, a whopping 92% of the vote went against Trump. So you don't want the grand jury in D.C., but you can get it to Florida because of the Mar-a-Lago raid in 2022. Florida, an intriguing option because overt acts of the alleged conspiracy occurred there. Overt acts of the alleged conspiracy in Florida. Republican investigators in Congress have pointed to key events that helped Democrats damage Trump and other Republican candidates and could be considered a conspiracy case. The events include, here's a list of the events, all right? Clearing Hillary Clinton of criminal wrongdoing for transmitting classified information on an insecure and private email server. Refusing to pursue foreign intelligence about possible wrongdoing in the email case that was flagged in the classified annex of the Inspector General report that Senator Grassley has pursued for years. Next, failing to investigate the August 2020 intelligence that China was trying to hijack the 2020 election by creating fake driver's licenses that could be used for bogus mail-in ballots to help Biden win. That was 2020. Again, in August of 24, 20,000 bogus licenses that were manufactured in China were confiscated at O'Hare International Airport. We know that. And Christopher Wray and the FBI said, well, we don't need to really look into that. They did it again. A Biden campaign-inspired effort to portray Hunter Biden's damning laptop as Russian disinformation when, in fact, it was real and everybody knew it. Obstructing IRS and FBI investigators in their early efforts to probe Hunter Biden's tax and gun crimes, as Congress was shown by whistleblowers in 2023, concealing Joe Biden's apparent mental decline ahead of the 24 election, which required an unprecedented bait and switch atop the Democrat ticket when Kamala Harris was installed as the presidential nominee without ever being challenged, debated against, or garnering a single primary vote. All of these part of the ongoing conspiracy to help Democrats and damage Donald Trump. The biggest revelation here is China's role in all of this. It's always been China. It's never been Russia. Always been China. Hear me clearly. China is the one pushing for open borders. China is the one pushing the Green New Deal. China is the one pushing in illegal driver's licenses, manufactured fake driver's licenses using real addresses and real names so that mass mail-in votes could be created and shipped in. China did this. According to John Solomon, I encourage you to read this. It's a 12-page report. I can't even begin to scratch the surface. Just came out. John just sent it to me moments ago. That's why I'm opening with it this hour. So much more to talk about here. Some of the episodes that House and Senate investigators have identified on that front of multiple efforts to pursue Trump: opening the Russia collusion probe, July 2016, FBI agents deceiving foreign intelligence surveillance courts, FISA courts, to spy on Carter Page, giving false or misleading testimony to Congress to hide the lies of the case against Trump, seeking to extend the criminal probe of Mike Flynn, including uncorroborated and discredited Steele dossier and the Obama administration's 2016 intelligence community assessment, and so much more. You need to read this story. JustTheNews.com. I've got some news for you. Ivy will be with me after the break. I'll be right back. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Back to it now. Yep, blessed to have Ivy in the room with me today. And Ivy, we both have a very high regard for John Solomon. And he sent this story to me. It just broke here moments ago. And it's an in-depth read into all of these things that are happening and the ongoing grand conspiracy, it's being called, by Kash Patel and the FBI into this ongoing 10-year plan to destroy Trump. The most important thing that and you heard me talking about it, the most important thing that I identify here is that China was involved with trying to rig the 2020 election. I don't know if it goes back to 2016, but China was involved trying to send bogus driver's licenses in 2020 when Joe Biden allegedly got 81 million votes. You know, millions more than anybody else in history. Nobody believes that. Nobody believed it then. They don't believe it now. And then we know in August of 2024, 20,000 illegal, fabricated, manufactured driver's licenses were confiscated at O'Hare International Airport, and the FBI knew about it, and Christopher Wray pushed that all to the side. I think these things all tie together, and damn it, we need answers.
Absolutely. You know, if you rewind and think about all of those years of the Russian collusion, hoax, and all of those lies, Hillary Clinton at the time destroying her servers
and phones, smashing them with a hammer and all that stuff, right?
Right, and I remember covering this, and I wasn't on the program as regularly as I am now, but I remember you and I talking about it and you covering it. Like, there is a major scandal going on here. And then
when Comey came out, you and I were in the car July 5th, 2016, driving home from northern Michigan, and we heard Comey come out. We listened to his press conference that day. I think it was 5th of July, and I'm almost positive of it. And he came out and said, well, you know, she's committed crimes, basically, but no prosecutor would pursue this. And we looked at each other and go, what the hell is he talking about? No prosecutor would pursue. Of course they would.
Absolutely they would. But, you know, I think it really is disturbing because I find that even though we uncover these things and perhaps there's going to be, there is an investigation going on, we know that. There perhaps is going to be a special prosecution. You just said that, right? Perhaps.
Yeah, perhaps.
And then you wonder if anyone is ever going to be held accountable.
Well, that's what people want to know.
Brennan, you know.
So I'm going to jump to page 7 here of Solomon's, and I go to justthenews.com. You can get this complete story. It's 12 or 14 pages. The headline, partial headline, Clinton's illicit email server may come back to haunt her, so she may not get out of this yet. Because Chuck Grassley, he might be an old dog, but he is a persistent old dog. He's stubborn, and he's not letting him get away with it. He said the unclassified report raises significant issues associated with the FBI's failure to review certain highly classified information in support of its mid-year investigation. The FBI even drafted a memorandum May of 2016 saying that access to the information was necessary to complete the investigation, but it was never completed. You know, it was...
They just brushed it under the rug.
Corruption at every level here. Classified annexes may be the key here. It's a classified appendix to the report that provides further information about the details of the Clinton plan. As described herein in the classified appendix, U.S. officials describe the Clinton plan in various other ways in their official notes and documents. We have to have this. Materials obtained from former Director Brennan's office reflect that he personally received a copy of the intelligence and shared it with President Obama July 28, 2016. They knew then.
Which is when, what was it?
Comey was in there. Brennan was in there. Clapper was in there.
Right. They all knew, and it was a coordinated plan.
July 28.
Yeah, they wanted to take down Trump. They didn't want him to be able to get elected, and it was this grand plan. I mean, this isn't, I think, a big surprise. I mean, this is all part of Crossfire Hurricane.
Sure it is.
Right, and so we're uncovering all these details. But what is astonishing to me is if they could do this to a man who was running for president and then it was sitting president, and they can do this, what can they do to an average American? It kind of makes me scratch my head about the J6ers, you know, and the level at which the people in power will go to keep it and to destroy someone that they don't like and don't agree with. And that should be really frightening and eye-opening for every American. Like, this is wrong. And we have to hold these people accountable. And you have to call your representatives and you have to say, hey, we need to know the details. We need justice in this because it is absolutely wrong on every level.
Yeah.
And we know, like, and the Chinese not only were trying to create these fake IDs, they were also putting out bots on Facebook and Twitter and things like that to put out fake news and to try to sway people's opinions. This also came out.
Yeah, let me read the conclusion of John's article here. If Trump declassifies the 2 tranches of evidence, it would give prosecutors an extraordinary way to help grand jurors understand that the era of what many call the weaponization of the Justice Department began with 2 extraordinary and election-changing events, one benefiting Hillary Clinton and the other harming GOP nominee Trump. And it looks like it probably bled into 2020. That's me saying that. For years, the Democratic Party and its supporters have been using the phrase, nobody is above the law.
Who was the special prosecutor? Robert
Mueller?
Yes.
Yeah, he came back with nothing.
He came back
Trump.
with nothing?
0 against Trump.
Right.
But Durham found lots of dirt about what really happened, and that's what we have to dig into here.
Exactly.
Anyhow.
But how was this evidence withheld then? Because this evidence obviously was there.
Well, it's still classified. There's some members of Congress that haven't even seen this stuff. It's still behind the paywall, if you will. It's behind the paywall. That's
right, but it makes you wonder, certainly.
Yeah.
It's like it's not like this stuff just showed up. It's been there the whole time.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Great story.
Yeah, great story. And I'm really excited to hear more.
I salute John Solomon again at Just the News. I mean, there are very few true reporters working in the wild anymore. He's one of them. And he's down in the trenches every day. Thank God for John Solomon. We'll take a break. Ivy, thank you for you. God love you. That's what I'm trying to say. Love you. I'll be right back.
Thank you.
A traffic stop, Lincoln Park, Michigan. Turns a little bit more exciting. That's about 12 miles southwest of Detroit for those of you keeping track of where Lincoln Park is. Not the band, the place, right? All right. They pulled a guy over. Didn't have a valid driver's license. 27-year-old Fran Enrique Jokiker Mercado Rivas. Yeah, he's got 5 names. He needed a driver's license this big. No, he had a fake. Anyhow, wanted by Interpol for a murder in Venezuela. Yep, wanted by Interpol, an internationally sought murderer. U.S. border agents from the Gibraltar station contacted by law enforcement concerning Mercado Rivas. And according to a statement from U.S. Customs and Border, Mercado Rivas admitted to agents that he was in the U.S. illegally, being processed for removal from the United States. I'm sure some Democrat somewhere thinks that he ought to stay because we want Venezuelan killers in America. Anyhow, there's that. The arrest highlights the Border Patrol's unwavering commitment to protecting our communities and upholding the rule of law, said Chief Patrol Agent John Morris. There you go. Look, this is why we need these folks out of the country. Simple as that. We need to clean up our act. This part of the program brought to you by my good friends at Wolverine Water. Wolverine is Michigan's premier water treatment company. They've been my water treatment company since, well, for 20 years, long before I did this program, actually. Yeah, Paul Mahaney and his team make the machines in America. They sell because your neighbors and friends are out there selling them. They're installed by your friends and neighbors as well. It's Wolverine Water. Look, they've been here for 75 years. So's Paul, but he hasn't owned the place that long. Anyhow, he is the premier CEO of Michigan's premier water treatment company, WolverineWaterSystems.com. To find out more, WolverineWaterSystems.com. And you can find out more. I'll be right back. All right, back at it now. My next guest is the Speaker of the Michigan House. They took that back in the last election. They're hoping to add the Senate to their collection, maybe the governor's mansion next year. That would be nice. Matt Hall is with me. Matt, nice to have you back on the program.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
I want to ask you something. Mike Cox, who's running for governor one of the Republicans. I asked him this earlier because it's become more evident. I just want to ask you about this. Should we ban China from buying land in Michigan or America, for that matter, certainly farmland or any land at all, because of all the things that we see that they're up to and including apparently working to rig the election of 2020 and 24, according to brand new, excellent reporting from John Solomon that I just shared with everybody. Should we ban China from buying land here?
Yeah, I think particularly foreign adversaries, nations that are on lists that are hostile to the United States through the State Department should not be able to buy up farmland in our state. And the Michigan House, we passed legislation this year that would stop entities like the Chinese government and even Chinese nationals from purchasing property and farmland in our state. That is sitting in the Democrat Senate, and I don't expect they'll do anything about it.
Of course not. Yeah. You say adversarial nations. This may be a bit, out there. Do we have any friends anymore? I mean, are there true? I mean, I look around. Is Germany, England, maybe Italy. I mean, it just seems to me a lot of countries have just lost their way. We're not the only ones having problems. A lot of countries have lost their way. Anyhow, let's move on to things that we can deal with here in Michigan. How about funding the roads? Look, Governor Whitmer, this is starting to be referred to as the second lost decade. Jennifer Granholm had the first lost decade, and here we are. We've gone down in education. We've gone down in population. We've gone down in opportunities for people here. I think we were the only state in the whole country last year to raise taxes on people. While states like Tennessee and Texas and Florida are booming, we're raising taxes and not fixing the roads. Come on, man. We got to be able to do better, right? Come on, man. And that's Joe Biden for you. We got to do better, don't we?
Yeah, and that's why the Democrats lost the House, right? I mean, when other states were investing in infrastructure, when they were giving tax relief to their citizens and really solidifying their standing above Michigan in a lot of these rankings of great places to live or start a business, that's what they did. And what Michigan did during the pandemic, when we had large infusions of surplus money from the federal government, they spent it to expand government and they spent it to give it all to big companies like GM and Ford and Goshen. And we look at these big corporate giveaways, and they have not resulted in one job created. We spent our entire state surplus basically on those big corporate giveaways and pork projects for politicians to buy their votes on all of these giveaways.
Yep, and one $5,000 coffee machine. Anyhow,
yeah.
Sorry, I had to throw that in.
No, you're right. And so what I said when I became speaker is, look, Governor Whitmer campaigned on fixing the roads. What if we actually held her accountable to that and came up with a plan to fix our roads and put the ball in her court, in the Democrats' court, and said, we'll meet you on that issue. It's an issue we hear about in our local communities. So we came in, and in the first 90 days, we passed a plan to fix the roads. And we do it by prioritizing spending, by ending the corporate giveaways, ending the pork barrel projects, and dedicating all of the money collected at the pump to roads. We do that, we can put $3 billion more into roads without raising taxes, which is what the experts say we need. Now it's been crickets because the Democrats never had a plan to fix roads. It was just a talking point.
It was apparently just a talking point. And, when Bill Schuette stood, during the debate, she's going to raise taxes on gas by 50 cents. Oh, that's not going to. It's exactly what she tried to do. He was right. He had her dialed in. And yet, here we are, almost, 6-7 years on? It's disappointing, and every place you look, like education. I mean, if you can't offer people a good education and a good road to get to school and a good place for mom and dad to have a job if they want one, what are we doing? I mean, when Indiana gets a brand new car plant and we get nothing, come on, man.
Yeah, and so what we're trying to do, our fiscal year ends September 30th, and there's a kind of an aspirational budget deadline of July 1. What we're trying to do in the budget conversations is we're trying to negotiate roads and education first.
Yeah.
And we want to fund our schools. We have to fund our schools. We don't want to have that push into the fall and have people having to worry about that. So we want to lock in education, and then we want to lock in our roads. And like I said, we've passed a plan that can do that without raising taxes, but that has to be done in the budget. You can't complete the budget and then tack roads on top. That's how you're going to get a massive tax increase. So let's work within our existing budget. Let's fund roads, let's fund education, and then we'll start working on the other programs. What Democrats want to do is essentially push this thing as close to the brink as possible and say, we're just going to tack on 3% of what we did last year. They have no plan to fix the roads. So they're going to try to push us toward a government shutdown. I just saw over the weekend, Dana Nessel gave a speech where she said much of her time right now is being spent on meetings talking about how they're going to handle the government shutdown. So they've been planning this government shutdown since before we took the House. I saw Mallory McMorrow, who's one of the wacko Democrat senators, come out and say, if you elect the Republicans to the House, they'll shut the government down. They've been executing this plan the whole way. The way they're going to try to stop cuts is pushing it to September 30th, the deadline, and hoping we cave. That's their plan.
Yeah, which is just a plan to hurt us. Last question, real quickly. It's been how long since the 35th Senate District had a senator? How long?
Yeah, since the beginning of the year, or I guess November of last.
And no election called. Should that be changed? Should we include in our Constitution a provision for, you've got 60 days, you got 90, whatever number you think, you have 60 days. I think that'd be a fair number to call an election. No more, because she's never going to fill that seat. Not.
Yeah, so when the House was tied because two Democrats left last year and the Democrat control of government was on the line, I remember Governor Whitmer called that special election over Thanksgiving. It was like they vacated the position on Monday, and you had until Friday of Thanksgiving weekend to file. And think about that.
Exactly.
So, it was hard to recruit a candidate. They filled that seat in weeks. We're not seeing that in this case where it's not politically advantageous for Democrats.
No, because the Republicans could well win that seat, obviously. And that's her concern. Matt Hall, always appreciate you being here, my friend. We need to help the folks out up there on Saginaw Bay and get them some representation. Always good, Matt. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Take a break and be back. It's the Steve Gruber Show. You've probably seen these attacks on ICE agents by a variety of folks. I've got a very nice video of an Antifa guy throwing a spear at law enforcement. On my X account right now, it's got 1 million views. You should go take a look. You'll enjoy it. He FAFO. Yeah, throw that spear. We're going to introduce you to something called a police canine unit. And then a second police canine unit. He seemed unhappy with the outcome. But no more. Donald Trump directing DHS and ICE to protect themselves from assaults after thugs, as he put it, continue to throw rocks. You've seen this. They've got like chunks of concrete or rocks, and these vehicles are coming by. They're law enforcement vehicles, and they're trying to smash the windows out of them. Completely inexcusable. Completely wrong. Anyhow, here's what Trump put up on Truth Social. I'm on my way back from Texas and watched in disbelief as thugs were violently throwing rocks and bricks at ICE officers while they were moving down a roadway in their car and or official vehicle. Tremendous damage was done to these brand new vehicles. I know for a fact that these officers are having a hard time with allowing this to happen, and that it shows such total respect for law and order. I am giving total authorization for ICE to protect itself, just like they protect the public. I never want to see a car carrying a law enforcement officer attacked again. Authorization immediately granted for arrest and incarceration. Thank you for your attention to this matter, he wrote on social media. And I think that reflects what most of us think. You can't just throw chunks of concrete at police cars and ICE vehicles. Border Patrol, no, absolutely not. By the way, Donald Trump's anniversary 1 year ago, as you know, Butler, Pennsylvania. Ivy and I were in Milwaukee at the time of the shooting in Butler, Pennsylvania that almost claimed the life of Donald Trump. He turned his head ever so slightly and the bullet pierced his ear, but missed his skull. Almost killed him, as close as you could possibly come to being killed without it happening. And what a remarkable survival it was. Anyhow, the widow, Corey Comparator was killed that day in front of his wife and children. His widow still saying, I have no answers. Who was this guy? This is from yesterday. Listen.
I'm really right at the beginning where I was back a year ago. You know, we really haven't healed that much. You know, we have no answers. So, you know, I miss him just like I did last year. I want to sit down with the Secret Service and I want them to tell me everything that happened that day. I want to know why they failed. I want to know what happened. Why Butler? Why was that such a failure that day? What was the reason? Why did he walk around for an hour without someone grabbing him? He was a wonderful human. He was just the best dad, he was the best husband. I mean, he was just a wonderful man. He would help anybody. He'd give you his last dollar. You know, he would have helped that kid.
Yeah. She wants answers, and so do we. Why wouldn't you? Why was his body cremated so fast? What happened to all the evidence? How was he allowed to walk around for 45 minutes, seen numerous times, pointed out by people in the crowd, hey, there's a guy up there with a gun. Nothing happened. 6 Secret Service agents were suspended between 10 and 42 days. We just learned that last week. Other than that, I have nothing to offer you. Sad, because we deserve answers. More cover-ups than transparency. Seems to get worse, doesn't it? Or maybe we're more connected now because of, you know, the way the world is connected. We get more information quicker, but it just seems like there's more cover-ups than answers. And I, for one, am sick of it. I want answers. I don't know who this shooter was. Where did he come from? How did this kid from a strange family ended up on a roof with a rifle shooting at the President of the United States? Former president, now president, anyhow. By the way, speaking of illegals, which I did a moment ago, this guy that was on the Interpol list picked up a Venezuelan murder suspect, picked up here in Michigan. And Kristi Noem pushing back hard against NBC for misleading statements about conditions for illegals in detention centers. She said, look, you guys are lying to people. You're just lying to people. Here's what she said.
Would have said that back during the Biden administration and back when Democrats were in the White House and they were piling people on top of each other on cement floors and literally didn't have 2 feet to move. They never did that, and that's why this politics has to end. We took cameras in there. We will take cameras in there and show people what these facilities look like, because if you compare them to what happened under the Biden administration and under the Obama administration, these centers are at the highest levels, and they're even higher than what our federal prison standards are or state or local often are.
Yeah. There you have it. Yeah. You see, they've got pretty decent conditions. I've seen the facilities. Oh, they get water out of the same place they go to the bathroom. Yeah, it's a one-piece stainless steel deal. It's in prisons all over this country, in jails and so forth. It's the accepted standard, by the way. While elites got rich off crypto, hardworking American patriots were left behind, but not anymore. Block Trust IRA is changing that, bringing the crypto opportunity to real Americans like you. With crypto fueling President Trump's America First economic miracle, now is your chance to join the movement. Their Animus AI trading platform runs 24/7, crushing old-school strategies and helping patriots like you build serious wealth like elites. It's the #1 crypto tech platform by Bitcoin Magazine. Block Trust IRA offers up to $200 million in protection, and some of their clients are seeing returns as high as 250%. You could be a teacher, a trucker, a retiree, or a small business owner. This is your time. Get up to $2,500 bonus crypto when you sign up right now. SteveGruberCrypto.com. SteveGruberCrypto.com. Make retirement great again. Final thoughts after this. All right. Bitcoin, almost $122,000 now. It's remarkable. Almost $122,000 now is Bitcoin. Where does it stop? I mean, they're making it so much more accessible now. It seems that more people are buying it. It creates more demand. If there's more demand, there's a limited number of coins, and therefore it has more value. Pretty simple, right? The Winklevoss twins sure have cashed in on that deal, and so have a lot of other folks. That's why I say, block trust. We looked at it here not long ago. It was $88,000. I thought, man, that's going to have to come back a little bit. It has not come back. It just continues to go up and up and up. At some point, there's going to be a pullback. There has to be. There always is. But when and where, I could not even begin to tell you. I couldn't even begin to tell you. Pretty remarkable, though. Where do you put your money? What do you trust? What's the market doing futures today? I'm going to just look at that real quick while I'm thinking of it. Always curious. Let's see. Markets are going to be slightly down. Extreme greed is driving the markets, they say. It's at about 44,500, give or take. The S&P at 6,300. The NASDAQ almost 23,000. I don't know. To me, it's a lot of it is, people talking about it. It's kind of like being at the casino, but some of those casino things pay off, don't they? All right. I'm going to leave it right there. Fight the good fight, keep the faith. God bless America. We're off to a great start, another big week. And remember, my friends, only you can save America. We'll see you tomorrow.